Hey, Leandria, I wanted to just give you some feedback here in terms of your first writing assignment. Okay, so you are trying to argue that perhaps we need to pay more attention to arts, okay, the arts, specifically art here that you're talking about. Now, so let's think about this. You have you have to think of your audience. Now, you make some really good points in this paper, and so you're obviously defending the position that art should have in our schools. My suggestion, though, is that before you can begin there, I think that you have to paint a bigger picture for your audience, and no pun intended there, by the way, in regards to why you think the arts have been relegated to these things that we basically cut out of our curricula. So, for example, in the beginning of your paper, although I do like the way you begin, I like the way that you begin with your sort of personal story. But I think at some point you need to talk about that the fact that our educational system has gotten so competitive, and we have placed so much emphasis on math and science and English on these core subjects, right? And talk about the rationale behind that. Why is it that we've placed so much emphasis on that? And then you can talk about that in the midst of that emphasis, and as a result of all that emphasis on math, science, and English, and so forth, that unfortunately the arts, the fine arts, have been left behind. Okay, so that's something to consider, because people who are listening to you might want to know that you are actually aware of the reason behind the why arts have been cut from a lot of the curricula throughout the country. Okay, they want to know that you're knowledgeable about the other side of this argument. Now, when it comes to then, once you've done that, then you can talk about the reasons that you feel art should be taught. But in this paper, it doesn't, there's parts of the paper where you seem like you're trying to discuss why art should be taught. Okay, so for example, by the way, one quick thing: whenever you begin a new paragraph, you have to indent. Okay, so like this. That way, because it's really difficult for your reader to figure out. I mean, some of them are easier, but then some paragraphs that, for example, this paragraph prior to me. Well, let me show you what it looked like before I indented everything. Okay, see how all of a sudden it looks like it's just part of this next paragraph. Okay, so you want to just make sure that you indent everything. Okay, whenever time you get to a new paragraph. But anyways, what I was saying is that at times in this paper you make it seem as if you're going to talk about the reasons why we should have art back in the curriculum, but then there are other times in the paper where it seems like you're not even really talking about that. You're just trying to figure out why the arts have been taken out of our curriculum, right? And so for example, in here, this is still talking about your experience. But then over here, for example, you throw out the idea that perhaps money has something to do with that, right? And then over here, you're bringing in, let's see, I wasn't too sure what this article, why you were bringing this in. Then over here, well, maybe it's up to teachers to create the art. So maybe teachers aren't the ones that are doing it. Okay, is kind of what you seem to be suggesting. And then over here, you talk about that perhaps money is the issue. But then over here, some of the quotes that you use are quotes where you're talking about the positives, what art does to to people, and the positives of an art curriculum in schools. And then, but you end back to, so which is it? Budget cuts, teachers doing it, or simply we're forcing too much basic education? So, like I said, on the one hand, the paper seems to be about the reasons why we should have art. On the other hand, the paper seems to be about why you think we're getting rid of art. We've gotten rid of art as a country. So those are two completely different papers. So my suggestion would be to choose one of those directions and go with that. All right. And last thing that I'll say is in terms of how you incorporate your sources. For example, let me go to a source in here that you incorporated. Rather than saying, right, like here you wrote, today's education doesn't have the money or the means to be able to have a teacher, such as my old art teacher, who comes to the classroom and show different types of art techniques. In the article written by a former teacher, she points out a quote written by the National Art Education Association. All right, you don't have to tell us all that. You can just, I mean, you've already read it, and you can basically say, for example, show different types of art techniques. You can begin by as a former teacher points out, quote, art education opens the possibility for creating new worlds rather than simply accepting the world as it is. Students learn a great deal, and you keep on going, and then you have your in-text citation. Now, the in-text citation, that's another thing you need to be aware of. Right? You don't put all of this information in the in-text citation. What I'm going to suggest for you is to go to the website that is called, the website itself is, if you just type in MLA format, you can see the website. It'll take you straight to, I'll show you real quick. It'll take you to this website. You go onto that website and it shows you exactly how to format your papers, what the in-text right here, in-text citations look like, okay? What you're supposed to have in those in-text citations. Notice that there's not so much as what you have in there. Also, it'll show you correct works cited page information, all right? All these things that you're going to need to be able to make sure that your paper is written in MLA format, okay? Let me know if you have any questions. I'd be more than happy to provide more feedback for you, okay? Thanks.